Welcome to office hours. I have a stupid thing that I was testing out. What do you think? So if you can hear me and see me, and I should look normal again, then say hi in the chat so that I know that everything is working properly. Looks like there's a bunch of you. Hi, Leonardicus and Josh. Welcome to the show. Great, so it looks like we are up and running. So welcome everyone to Office Hours. Those of you who have never been here before, I do a regular show, a regular live show where I answer subscriber questions, and we talk about food and we talk about health, and it's all very fun. So I'm here to answer questions for you. You're welcome to write in the text questions using the little button, I believe it's on the bottom of the screen over there, or you can call in with a video call. But if you do that, make sure you please wear headphones so that there's no feedback. And if you're not wearing headphones, I'm going to hang up on you really quickly. And it looks like we have questions already. Let's just see what's going on over here. Okay, we'll get to that in a sec. Kathy, good question. But so for my office hour sessions are just sort of open sessions, and we can talk about whatever you want. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I saw a lot in the news yesterday, which is about, I don't know if you guys saw it, but in JAMA, in the Medical Journal of American Medical Association, JAMA, a report was published that restaurants are not, the calorie counts on restaurants are frequently inaccurate, and specifically certain types of restaurants and certain types of dishes tend to be severely underestimated in terms of the calorie counts on the menus. So did you guys hear this? Do you have any thoughts or questions on it? Anybody hear about it? I was not super surprised to hear it. There was some rumor about it before, which is why this study was done. They went to go sort of check up on how the restaurants were doing in terms of calorie counts and all that information. And so what the scientists did is they went to 3 different cities, and these were all sort of Midwest. Well, there was one in the South, which was in Arkansas, Little Rock. They went to Boston, and they went to Indiana. And they just they ordered food, they did a calorie analysis on all of it and compared that to what was actually on the calorie counts on the menus and online. And what they found is, on average, they're actually not that bad. So if you take everything together, it's not that bad in terms of how wrong it is, because some things tend to be underestimated and some things were overestimated. The issue was that there seemed to be a bias in which kinds of foods were overestimated in terms of their calorie count. So I don't know how you guys would have guessed, but would you guess that fast food is worse or sit-down restaurants is worse in terms of, oh, hi, Toaster. Hi, puppy. In terms of like the accuracy of the calorie counts. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Everybody, I feel like, people are saying hi, Toaster. I feel like, yeah, exactly. So, everyone demonizes fast food. The reality is that their portions and the way they run things is so uniform. They have a pretty darn good idea of how many calories are in all their food products. Toaster, you don't need to be like gnawing on this right now. And so the fast food restaurants actually did better than the sit-down ones, which is not that surprising when you think about it, but it's something to keep in mind. The sit-down restaurants can actually be worse in terms of what you think you're getting versus what you're actually getting. And it turns out that the entrees were not too bad in terms of being wrong with the calorie counts. What was the real problem was the side dishes. And specifically the carby side dishes and the desserts, those were the ones that were most likely to be over 100 calories more than they were labeled as. And, that's a lot. Like if you aren't, if you're expecting the difference between 500 and 600 calories is significant. I mean, that's a 20% increase. So there was a big sort of hoopla about this on Twitter yesterday when it came out, and the New York Times had a little discussion about it and like how big of a deal this was. Personally, I feel like while I don't have particularly strong feelings about calorie labeling, I kind of like the idea that restaurants, or especially ones that we all know they sell junk food, right? Like, or maybe we don't all know they sell junk food. I know they sell junk food. Nutritionists know they sell junk food. They know they sell junk food. But, a consumer might think that, maybe the salad from California Pizza Kitchen isn't so bad because it's a salad, right? But it's junk food, and those things have like 1,200 calories. They're ridiculous. So I like the idea of calorie counting, if for no other reason that it forces the places that are pretending that they have healthy stuff to sort of show that they are not actually healthy. Or not that they're not entirely healthy, but they're not low calorie. They're not like good for dieters, for example. But if you're like honest, and you're like, and what makes me sad is if you're like an honest dieter and you're just listening to nutritionists or whatever, and you believe that if you just count your calories and get it right and just stay under this many that you'll lose weight, I think that is a false sense of security, and I think it's not the right way to do it at all. So so that's why it bothers me. It bothers me that, there are people who believe that if they count the calories that are labeled on the package, that they're accurate, and B, that they're capable of like keeping them under some mystical calorie line that, most people haven't gone and gotten their metabolism tested and figure out what their ideal calorie intake even is. And I just feel like this is sort of a non-winning strategy to lose weight, and let alone get healthy. Like, healthy foods don't have calorie labels on them because it's broccoli. So that's sort of my take on it. One person I saw on Twitter was sort of appalled because she was reading the discussion of the paper, and I read the whole paper. So if you have any questions on it, like I read all those statistical methods and all that stuff, so you can ask. But she was appalled that in the discussion at the end, it mentioned that there's no regulation for restaurants how much of a margin of error they're allowed to have, whereas the FDA regulates food package labels, and that's sort of, your typical box of cereal or whatever, and theirs are allowed to be off by 20% legally. So legally, as long as they're within 20%, they can put whatever they want on there, right? So, I mean, if you think that most packaged foods are overestimating by 20%, you're wrong. They're all underestimating by 20%, and that's where all these extra calories come from. So counting calories is really, really tough. And most people do it wrong and vastly underestimate, and then they wonder why they don't lose weight. And that's a big part of the problem. So that's all I have to say on that. I'm going to start. If you have any questions, feel free to ask about that topic. I just wanted it was sort of bugging me. I wanted to get that off my chest. And I can start taking questions now over in, not the chat room, but this question area where I ask you to ask questions. Awesome. So our first question is from Kathy Woolley, and she would like advice about pre, mid, and post-workout food, especially stuff I can take along on my road bike. Okay. So I'm not an exercise person. I'm not a trainer. I'm not an exercise physiologist. I have run a lot of marathons. So in terms of my advice, it's going to be sort of drawing from that experience, not so much science, because I haven't read about like the science of exercise. So it depends on what your goal is, Kathy. If are you trying to just not be hungry? Are you trying to optimize your health? Are you trying to lose weight? Like what's your goal? And if you're doing a workout that's longer than like an hour and you're going to be pretty hungry, what I always did was eat something that was small and very calorie dense. Okay, you're trying to not feel wasted at the end of a workout. Okay, yeah. So for me, when I was running, like I would be demolished, after a 2-hour run or whatever. So I would eat something that was as small as I could with as many calories as possible, and usually that was like something that had to do with peanut butter because it has such high calories, and it's just, it's one of those foods that they might say stick to your ribs. It digests really slowly. It's sustained energy for a long period of time. So I'd have like maybe a piece of toast and with peanut butter, or a bagel with peanut butter. Not like, I generally think that, minimizing bread is good, but when it comes to these long workouts, you need something that's got carbs in it. You're not going to be putting on fat with that. If anything, you're going to be improving your insulin sensitivity by eating sugar and then going to work out. So that is one thing you can do. During your workout, I mean, it's up to you. I don't generally recommend anyone eat during a workout, but if you are seriously going out for hours and you need something, I mean, let's see, when you're running, you can't chew, right? So during marathons, I sometimes use that goo stuff, but I tried to limit it to once or twice per race, and I tried to never use it on a practice run, although I did on my very, very long runs when I was, basically running marathon length before the event. After the workout, I like to keep it lighter, unless it's going to be your meal. So I would just have a piece of fruit, or maybe if you're really, really hungry, maybe some nuts or something like that. But I mean, it's hard because it's very easy to overeat when you're working out really hard, and so you sort of have to be careful monitoring that. Make sure you drink a lot of water. Make sure you're, taking a multivitamin, and make sure you have all your electrolytes and all that. So Virginia, who just commented in the chat room, I know she runs marathons as well, and she says she goes if you do go with gels, she likes Hammer. They actually have recognizable ingredients in them, and they taste good. That's a good recommendation. Cool. So yeah, I don't really have any other advice than that. I mean, just try to eat the healthiest food that can sustain you. And I don't know what else to say. So thanks for your question, though. If you have more specific questions, feel free to ask more. Okay, this is interesting. Someone wants to know why I choose kosher salt for my recipes. Is it better than normal salt? For me, it's a flavor thing, and also it's a size. So if you're using, sorry, my hair looks horrible. If you're measuring for a recipe, what kind of salt you use matters tremendously, because kosher salt, these big rough things, and whereas like just your regular iodized salt is very, very granular. So you need more kosher salt or sea salts to equal the same amount. So there's charts and stuff for this online, so just go look it up. For me, it's a taste thing. Better salt has different minerals in it, different flavor profiles. I am of the opinion that your food should taste amazing and as amazing as possible, and so I recommend using the best ingredients you can find. And I prefer sea salt, but I know that kosher salt is much more common and much more easy for people to find, so I sort of say both just in case people are like, you and your fancy sea salt, I don't want to eat that. But kosher salt works. It tastes great, and that's all it comes down to. I think I want your vegetables to taste amazing. So I'm gonna pop over in the chat room real fast. Oh, no problem, Kathy and Caleb. All right, so okay, Josh is going to buy steaks from the farmer's market this week. How do you make your steaks? Well, a lot of steak making comes from the salting. Like, that's going to make it taste really good. So good salt. So it depends on what kind of steak you get, though, what cut you get. And I've actually had really good luck with the Cook's Illustrated methods and recipes. I don't know if you're planning on grilling it or pan roasting it or whatever. I mean, I personally like grill the best, but I don't have one now, and I haven't had one for years. I'm getting one soon, yay! But for the recipe, Cook's Illustrated has a pretty awesome way of where you cook it on the stove really hot to like sort of sear it and give it that crust, and then you stick it in the oven and like sort of finish it in there. And every recipe I've tried for any of their different cuts of steak has turned out pretty amazing, especially the filet mignon. So the only problem with Cooks Illustrated is they came around before the time of food blogs, and they charge for a subscription. I think it's worth it. It's like $20 a year or something for the online subscription. I pay it, but I don't know. I'm not a big steak maker, because usually if I bother with meat, I'm out of the restaurant. So good luck with that. Let me know how it goes. So yeah, there's a lot of your grill. So Josh in the chat said he's grilling. Yeah, I really am not versed in the grill. I hope to be in the future. This is one of my one of my goals. You guys, we are having the nastiest weather in San Francisco. The sun like just peeked out, but it's been like the gloomiest day. I haven't wanted to get. I mean, I woke up at like 6 this morning, and I haven't wanted to leave the house yet. So, I hope you guys have better weather than we have. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. So Kathy is curious about the nutritional value of vegetables grown through hydroponics. So hydroponics, so that's going to be largely water and fertilizer based, right? So the nutritional quality of your food and the taste of your food is almost all determined. I mean, obviously there's genetics involved. A tomato tastes like a tomato, but the complexity of the flavor is almost always determined by soil, as far as I'm aware. I'm no gardener. I don't garden. I kill things, sadly. I'm really, really thankful for the farmers that I buy from, because if it were up to me, I would starve to death. But everything I've read has told me that the nutritional value and the taste profiles are going to be dependent. And those are related, just to be clear. Like a very rich, minerally nourished soil is going, that complexity is going to translate into the flavor of your food. And so without soil, I don't know what that even means. I'm not going to comment on what other people do with hydroponics. Yeah, I don't really know. If anybody knows, come let us know in the chat room. But yeah, I've never eaten a hydroponic tomato. Jason in the, 115 somewhere. Jason in the chat room, kindly ask your questions using the little red ask a question button over there, because it's really hard for me to monitor the chat. So that would be better for me to get to you. Okay, here's a question. What do you put in an awesome stir fry? Trying to get some good ideas. So I put awesome things in awesome stir fries. So I love this question. There is no limits to how good a stir fry can be. I try to do a few things depending on what I have and what's in season. So it's summer right now, which is the most fun, I think, because you have your summer squash, and those are one of my favorite bases for a stir fry. So, you know, the yellow crooked neck squash or zucchini or those little flat star shaped ones. Those are all great. They cook very well with, you know, some garlic or ginger or soy sauce or whatever you want. So a couple things to consider when you're cooking a stir fry. I like to have as much color in there as I can, which is why summer's great. You can throw red peppers in there. You can throw, you know, fresh spinach, like a handful of spinach right at the end to just wilt. So you don't want to cook the spinach too much. So this is the most important thing when you're cooking a stir fry, is to get the order right. So you start with your more hearty stuff like onions and peppers and mushrooms, and then add your stuff that's going to cook quicker and you don't want to get soggy, like your zucchini, your summer squash, stuff like that. And at the very end is when you toss in anything leafy, like your herbs or your spinach or anything like that. Unless it's kale. Kale takes longer to cook than something like spinach, so you want to put that in actually closer to the beginning. So there's a lot of really good things you can put in a stir fry. I'm going to make a stir fry tonight. I got some of those Chinese long beans, you know, those like super long floppy ones. I got them with my group of my my class, my boot camp that I'm teaching at the farmer's market. So we had a group last week of 8 people. It was so fun. And I bought these Chinese long beans, and I'm going to cut them up in about like 1.5 inch little pieces. In the pan, there's going to be a little oil, a little garlic, a little chili flakes, a little, I'm either going to use soy sauce or black bean sauce. I might throw some peppers or something like that in there. I have a sweet red pepper that I have. Actually, it's probably a good idea. And even some like broccoli would be good in there. And then maybe either black bean paste or soy sauce. And then I have some, I think I said that already. And then I got some duck breast that's smoked, and I'm going to throw that in there. So it's a fairly simple stir fry, but I want to have sort of like a Chinese theme. A tofu is good in there as well. If it's going to be your main course and you don't have any meat, I always throw either beans or lentils in. It's awesome. Or just, cook it up and then serve an egg on the top or a piece of fish on the top. Amazing. I could go on about stir fries all day. Hope I gave you some ideas. I like to, one last note, think of like cuisines. So instead of being like, I'm just going to throw a bunch of random stuff in the pot with garlic, which is fine, and that's sort of leaning toward French, I would throw thyme and parsley or something in there to make it a little French with some red wine vinegar. And then that would be a little more special than just a pot of vegetables. But, later in the summer, we're going to start getting corn, we're going to start getting peppers, we're going to start getting okra, and tomatoes. And I would grab some cilantro and some garlic and some onions and a lime and make it a Mexican stir fry. Or, like tonight I'm kind of doing like a Chinese style stir fry, although it's not very authentic, but in my brain it's Chinese style. And just think that way, you'll have more fun. Try to recreate. You don't have to recreate a dish, but the flavors of like different restaurants you've been to. And if you aren't sure what the flavors are of certain cuisines, just start Googling recipes, like some of your favorite dishes, and see what's in there. Thai style stir fries are awesome. You just need a little lemongrass, ginger, pepper, and fish sauce. It makes it like Thai, and a little Thai basil, perfect. So that's my advice. Okay, this is interesting. What are my preferred sources of dietary calcium? So I've had my calcium tested. I've never had a problem. It's normal range. I don't go out of my way to get calcium. I eat a lot of green leafy vegetables, and I think that's probably my number one source. I do eat yogurt sometimes, but I've been eating that less and less. I had a little bit of cheese, but not very much. I'm pretty much lactose. I'm mildly lactose intolerant, so I don't drink milk. I don't have a lot of milk. I don't do soy milk that's fortified or anything like that. So, but there's also calcium in beans and vegetables. I get plenty just from eating fruits and vegetables and like regular like unprocessed foods, and I don't take supplements for it. So, but I think the best source is green leafy vegetables. Okay, Jason, your question has appeared. I just looked in the chat and Kathy said the hydroponic tomato she tried was bland. I'm not surprised because there's no soil. Like the flavor comes from soil. Anyway, back to Jason's question. So he's in Quebec, Canada, and he wants advice for eating healthy. I'm curious why it would be different than it would be here. My favorite advice is to eat seasonal fruits and vegetables. If it's a place that's cold a lot of the year, it's okay if they're imported from California. Eat snow. Yeah, it's okay. It's just what you don't want is something imported from a giant farm in Chile where it's like an entirely different season. It's going to be like a giant, massive industrial farm that's poorly regulated. You're better off getting stuff at the grocery store that is, at least in the same hemisphere as you. And my other tip is, frozen stuff and canned stuff is not that bad. I mean, especially though you can get really high quality frozen vegetables now. I've seen great ones at Whole Foods. I don't know if you guys have Whole Foods, but you should be able to find them. And, that's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. It's better than nothing. So, and get in touch with your local grocers, your local farmers, see what they're doing, see what they do during the year, and manage it that way. That's what I would do. Start asking people. The internet knows a lot of stuff. So I'm totally spoiled here in San Francisco. We have like endless supply of awesome food year round. You guys should come visit. Maybe that's the best answer. Come visit. All right. Good question. If you have a more specific question, because that's very general and it was something I didn't really know about because I've never been to Quebec, but I'm happy to take more. So my friend Tea Hacker wants to know, what in the hell are those tiny baby corn things in Chinese food? I don't know. I agree, those are a little weird. I mean, I guess they're little canned baby corn. I think they have a weird metallic canned taste. I'd be curious to see what they taste like fresh. I don't think they exist though. And does anybody know if like real Chinese people eat those? Like, do they eat those in China? Like when I was in China, it was only briefly, but I never saw little baby corns. So I was in Hong Kong for like 3 or 4 days. You do, Iris says. You get them at the supermarket, but not in cans? Wow. See, now I'm jealous. There's something San Francisco doesn't have, little baby corns. Amazing. Can you guys send me some? I'm gonna go to the Sunset District and go try to find some of those. That's amazing. So they must be in season soon, right? Can you get them now? Or is it year round? Or, I mean, corn season is just started here in San Francisco. Let me know if you guys have like insider tips on this stuff. Please let me know. Kathy wants to know why I don't eat bananas. I'm so glad you asked. I'm actually in the middle of writing a post on this, so I hope to have it for you next week with all the details. But basically, the main reason I don't eat bananas is because they're not at my farmer's market, so I don't have anywhere to get them. But also the entire industrial or banana process is really, really shady. Like there's a lot of like sketchy things going on in Ecuador where they grow all the bananas. And Dole and Chiquita, there's been like labor issues and like health issues with their workers, and there's bananas aren't grown here. They are advertised as a good source of potassium, but they're not as good as vegetables, and they're filled with sugar. They're very high calorie, dense calorie for a fruit. I just feel like I feel like they're part of like the fake food system, even though they're technically like a real food. I will write a post about this and get all the gory details out to you guys, but mainly they're not at my farmer's market, so I eat better things. Okay, so thank you guys, by the way, for all this info on the corn stuff, because bananas aren't real. So it says it's regular corn. It is harvested within 5 to 7 days after the silk appears. If left on the stalk, it will grow to full size. They're amazing, just steamed with garlic butter sauce. You have them for lunch. I'm so jealous. Can't believe there's corn I don't know about. It's horrifying. Somebody on Twitter asked, what are my thoughts on juicing? I wrote a whole post on that. It's on Summer Tomato. So should our nutritional concerns change as we age? Good question. Yeah, probably, actually. So for the obvious example for women is when they reach menopause, they stop producing estrogen, and estrogen is very important for bone maintenance. And, so it's probably worth taking extra measures to make sure that you're not losing bone. So you want to be sure to, get plenty of vitamin D and calcium. You want to be sure, I read, as we talked about in the soy episode last week, soy might help a little bit because it has a little bit of phytoestrogens in there, which may help. You definitely want to be sure to be doing weight-bearing exercises because that helps maintain bone strength as well, like running, impact exercises. And, men too. There's... like also in the soy episode, soy helps with prostate cancer, helps protect against it, and other things. So, everything becomes more important. Like, your memory could start going. So those omega-3s that you take, young people might not worry about so much because they think that, oh, I don't have heart disease, I'm young, I'm not heavy, whatever. They don't really think that these things are going to go away. But, every little bit helps, and every nutritional thing that you do helps. So those omega-3s are also good for preventing macular degeneration, which is, when you lose your vision. So you don't want that. So, it's just everything becomes more important. Your body's less resilient than it used to be. So just keep eating healthy, make sure you're getting your exercise, and, keep your fingers crossed, hope for the best. Let's see. I like this banana. I like this bananas aren't real comment. Okie dokie. So Brandon S. says, some say we didn't evolve to eat grains. I know you eat them and I love them too. How often can we eat them? So, yeah, I haven't been super convinced by the paleo argument, the paleo diet argument that grains are like the worst thing you can eat. They seriously believe they're like poison. It's amazing. I agree they can be dangerous for some groups of people. Celiacs, obviously, should avoid gluten. And if you're metabolically compromised, if you already have diabetes, it might be a good idea to stay away from grains for a while. Other than that, if you're a healthy person and you eat grains and you feel fine when you eat them, I don't see any problem with eating them. They have lots of nutrients. The anti-nutrient stuff that people worry about is pretty much irrelevant in our society, in like a first world society where you get plenty of nutrients from the rest of your food. And personally, I eat them pretty much every day. So I usually have some sort of rolled oat or granola or muesli or something like that for breakfast. Not always, but probably 3 or 4 days a week. Other days I eat eggs. Sometimes I actually go up to this local tea shop up the street called Samovar Tea Lounge, and I often get like an egg bowl there, and it's on rice, brown rice. So some paleo people eat rice, by the way, because it's not gluten. What else? I usually eat them for either lunch or dinner, not always. And, it depends. So sometimes I make a big batch of beans, sometimes I make a big batch of grains, sometimes I make both. So depending on what I have. This week I haven't made any yet, but I have been eating granola for breakfast. By the way, I'm doing my best to start documenting my foods, and I'm not that good at it, but people have been asking for my meal plans, and I keep thinking, okay, I'll take pictures, but like I'm so out of the like, what am I eating diet mentality that I totally forget to do it. So I'm working on building a document of 2 weeks of food I've eaten, but we'll see. Anyway, yeah, so you can eat them as long as you're comfortable eating them. If you're trying to lose weight and you're not eating any sugar, but you're eating like grains 3 times a day and you're not losing weight, try cutting back. But other than that, unless you're seeing physical problems, I don't see any reason to not eat grains. And that's my 2 cents. Ooh, and my dashboard disappeared. Oh, there we go. So someone says that they try to avoid anything that needs to be processed before it can be eaten. Yeah, but the grains are pretty minimal. Just clearing out the husk is not... flour is one thing. Like, I don't hardly eat any flour. Like, I'll have a sandwich like once a week, or I have a ramen place I like to go get noodles occasionally, but yeah, I agree that stuff should be sort of kept minimum. But like when it looks like farro or it looks like quinoa, I don't know, oats, I don't worry about that stuff too much. Yeah. Lentils are not grains. Lentils are legumes or pulses, like a bean. Next question. What are some different ways that I like to make whole grain dishes? So I have I desperately need to make more recipes on this because I make them all the time, and I don't think I've ever posted a recipe on it. So basically what I'll do is I'll make a big batch of usually either quinoa or farro. Those are my two sort of staple grains of choice. And if I'm making like a grain salad, for example, I'll just take like a cup or two, depending on how many people I'm feeding. And then I'll chop up whatever vegetables I have. So in season right now is French radishes, carrots, cucumber, summer squash, tomato, whatever. And I'll throw them in there, like salad turnips. And I'll cut up some fresh herbs. So whatever I have, either parsley or cilantro or dill. Those are my three like go-to herbs. And then I'll make up a little vinaigrette. So I'll have like 1 part olive oil, 1 part usually rice vinegar, and just like a scoop of usually miso. I've been using a white miso and blending it in there. And that's for the probiotics. And it tastes really, really good too. And then a little salt and pepper. Oh, and a green onion, like a scallion or something. And make a little dressing and pour that on the grains. Maybe toss some like sliced almonds or something in there. Just mix it up. Add a little, if you need more salt or pepper, just sort of do that to taste. You can pretty much use any vegetable for that, any herb, any spices. Like it's really, the quinoa is really good with like curry in the dressing or ginger. And it's delicious. I eat that. Everybody loves it whenever I make it. I eat it fairly regularly. Another thing you can do is if you just have those cooked grains in your fridge, like if I want a quick dinner and I'm not feeding a lot of people, it's just me, and I want to have some vegetables, but that's really not enough food, and I don't have any beans made, I'll just throw some grains right into the stir fry. Always good. That's pretty much it. Usually just throwing them in stir fries or making its own salad, or you can just throw it into a salad as well. So actually, I like them microwaved a teensy bit, like just a warmed up, steamy grains, and throw them into a salad, and it gives the salad like a nice, warm, chewy texture. It's nice. Ooh, I love this question. So I'm a picky eater and a little nervous when trying foods, especially vegetables. What do you suggest? So, sorry, I'm just checking the chat room real fast. You guys are having a great conversation. Lovely. So I have written about this a couple times on Summer Tomato. I do think it's really important to work to overcome your picky eatingness. And the reason is because it's totally worth it. It's so much better to like things than it is to not like things. And all it takes is some like concerted energy to decide to like things. I've done this a zillion times. Once I realized that eggplant wasn't disgusting because I'd only ever had it like slimy from disgusting restaurants where I grew up. Once I realized that was good, that it could be good, I thought, I was like, okay, there's hope for anything. If the eggplant can be good, there's hope for anything. And so I picked 1 or 2 vegetables a season, usually 1. And I just decided to learn to like it. And you can do that a few ways. You can, well, first of all, don't eat bad ones. Like, do whatever you can to avoid the gross, like, don't eat it at, like, a cafeteria or a buffet or anything from, like, a prepared platter or anything like that. You want to make sure to get stuff from the farmer's market if you can. Make sure that it's prepared by someone who knows how to cook, especially, preferably someone who knows how to cook foods that you like, that you've liked before. Or go to a really nice restaurant, and if you're at a really nice restaurant and you see something like Brussels sprouts on the menu and you're like, that's disgusting, encourage someone else to order it so you can have a bite, and you probably won't love it the first time. You'll be like, well, it's not disgusting, but it's still a Brussels sprout. Over time, you get used to it, and eventually, like, all of these things have become my favorite foods. It's amazing. Beets, Brussels sprouts, eggplants, cucumbers. I hated all of them, and now they're all awesome. So there's a couple articles on Summer Tomato. One is called, I think it's called Taste Psychology, Learning to Love Food You Don't Like. And then there's another one that was up recently called Gateway Vegetables. And it was a guest post from a reader who had the exact problem and overcame it, and what she did to do that. So go check out those 2 articles and give it a try. I beg of you. This is going to be very life-changing. And if you have more questions along the way, don't hesitate to ask. And also, pick the easiest ones first. Pick the ones you have like the least aversion to first. that it's helpful. I got my boyfriend a like eggplant too, by the way. Okay, so here's an interesting question. So I still don't fully understand the science as to why whole fat dairy is better than low fat. So better is a relative word. I'm not sure it's applicable here. There's a couple issues. So the first issue is that low fat and non-fat has never been shown to be beneficial. So whether or not high fat is better is one thing, but whether or not non-fat or low fat is better has shown not to be true. So there's that. Personally, I like fat for a couple reasons. One, I just think that fat is really, really important for satiation, for making sure you have like a sense of like you've eaten enough food. And so I feel better personally after I've had a good amount of fat in my diet, in my meal. Another thing is that when you're talking about certain foods like yogurt, plain yogurt, so I don't recommend anybody eat fruit yogurt. It's always like filled with sugar. It's like ice cream. So I recommend plain yogurt, but non-fat plain yogurt is really, really sour, and most people don't like it. But if you go for the fuller fat, or at least 2% or something, at least it tastes good. I mean, for me, it's a taste thing. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say it's better. I mean, there's definitely a case that raw milk, if you're 100% sure it's not contaminated with salmonella or something like that, that it's milk that hasn't been homogenized and hasn't been pasteurized, that's going to be healthier for you than regular milk. Milk is a very, very highly processed product. If you're curious more about learning more, I did a show on dairy. I think it was like my third or fourth show, something like that. So you can go to my YouTube channel or to Summer Tomato and search, and you can find it. So my YouTube channel is youtube.com/DariaPino, all one word. Woohoo! That's a good one. So I am Jim Brennan wants to know what cooking oils I like. I almost always cook with olive oil, and that's because you can cook it at reasonably high temperatures, not super, super high, but it doesn't, I rarely get it to smoke. So you only really need to worry about oils if they're smoking. That's when they get bad. When I do want a higher temperature oil, I usually use coconut oil or peanut oil or grapeseed oil. Those are sort of the only ones I use. Oh, tea oil as well, tea seed oil, but that's kind of hard to find, so you don't need that. But yeah, I don't use canola oil. It's too processed and weird. I sometimes use butter. I sometimes use lard. Don't tell the low-fat people. Okay. Yeah, coconut oil is my number 2. I don't usually use safflower oil unless, I think that's another one of those like super processed ones. I'm not sure though. I've had recipes call for it, and I'm not sure why. I really don't know that much about like why you would want to cook with different oils for reasons other than health, you know what I mean? So yeah, we have amazing completely grass pastured lard supplies here in San Francisco. We have the best meat. It's ridiculous. This place by my house is called Fatted Calf, is remarkable. Yeah, so someone saying that most canola oil is genetically modified. That's true. 'Tis true. So what's the deal with wheatgrass shots? Are they worth trying? So I haven't read specifically too much about wheatgrass because I'm just not a big believer in superfoods in general. I feel like you're better off getting stuff from all different sources. That being said, I've tried wheatgrass, and it made me really nauseous. It's almost like taking a multivitamin on an empty stomach. I don't know if you know that feeling, but it's like you just sort of feel like you want to retch. And it's probably because it's super high concentration of some kind of vitamin, probably the same one that's in my multivitamin. Most herbs and things that you eat that are very concentrated like that are actually really high in antioxidants, vitamins, like mint, spinach, oregano. Like those are all really, really, really good for you. But that's why you don't eat them in like massive quantities. I feel like taking shots of stuff is just like weird. Do it if you want. It's probably not bad for you. But I don't think you need like a wheatgrass shot a day. That's what you're asking. Like, could you imagine if we evolved to need a wheatgrass shot a day? How weird would that be? So that's my take on wheatgrass. Anything that's like super gimmicky like that needs a lot of convincing from me, like scientifically. I mean, you know, maybe if you're doing something crazy, like, or not crazy, but if you're doing something more extreme, like if you're doing an extreme sport or you're pretty much just an extreme sport, or maybe if you have a crazy diet and you're not like, if you have some, like I know there are people who are like raw fruit vegans, like they don't eat very many things. Yeah, they probably need to do special things to make sure they get all their nutrients because they've cut out so much of their diet. But for normal people, stuff like that is just, somebody's just taking your money. So, worth a try if you want. If you think, I mean, maybe it'll give you more energy. I heard people say stuff like that. But like I said, it made me nauseous. Oh, this is an interesting question. So does pastured chickens mean that they only eat grass, bugs, etc., or are they still fed as special feed? So the chicken and the egg story is very complex, and you're right to be suspicious. So it's really hard to know. So when it says like natural egg, like that doesn't really mean anything. If it says cage free, that doesn't really, it's not a huge advantage either, because there's like just not being cage free in the chicken facility where they're just like stacked up on top of each other without cages instead of with cages and like pecking each other to death. That's not an improvement. If it actually says pastured, I would, and you really want eggs that are pecking around the grass, I would go find that company and go look at their website and see what you can find about them, because that's pretty much the only way to know. I mean, I'm lucky I can go to my farmers and I can talk to them and I can go on their websites and see exactly what I'm getting. But if you're shopping at a grocery store, first of all, most of them are not likely to be pastured. I mean, just so you know, pastured eggs are going to be running $6 to $10 a dozen, at least here in SF. I mean, I've heard some people get them cheaper if they live in more rural areas and are near a farm, but they're hard to come by. And if you can find a good source, though, that's awesome. Like, definitely support them, because we don't have enough of those. But yeah, I think the best thing to do is go look up that company online and see, A, what they say about themselves, and preferably, if you can find reviews, what other people say about them. What are my favorite 5 ingredients? For what? Brownies? Just in general, in the universe? Just my 5 favorite foods? Like, does olive oil count? Because if I'm picking 5 favorite foods, olive oil wouldn't be on there. But if I have to cook something, I need olive oil and salt. Those are my first 1 and 2. And probably garlic and onions are my 3 and 4. I mean, so this is the sort of stuff that people that come with me on my farmers market tours get to hear. I have different obsessions in every season. In the summer, like now, I just become obsessed with peppers. I just love them, roasted and spicy and sweet and all the different ones. They're beautiful and they taste amazing. And like when you have a real pepper, like from the farm, and you smell it or you roast it, it just smells like otherworldly. It's so complex. It's amazing. Obviously, I love tomatoes. I had a life-changing experience with tomatoes. I love food. If you're talking like meat, I love oxtails. I love lamb. It was a trick question. Yeah, see, this you get me started talking about food I like, and this is gonna be a long show. So, trick question. I was taken in by that. I love this. I'm gonna go on a 7+ hour car trip. What's something I can bring to snack on that won't kill me? Excellent question. So road trips are fun. Couple things I always do on road trips. One, I eat before I leave so that I can at least make it like 4 hours without eating again. Usually I do bring something. I like to bring fruit. If you have like just a piece of fruit, that's always good. You probably need a meal, right, in that time. So trail mix is great. Just nuts and dried fruit sort of stuff. And I like to make grain salads or salads that like don't require crisp lettuce, you know what I mean? So either like those grain that basically that grain salad I described earlier. And you can also another thing you can throw in there is greens that are less delicate than lettuce, like arugula or spinach, or even like if you cut kale really, really, really thin and massage it with lemon juice and like avocado or something so it's like soft. That's good. Let me check the chat room and see if you're giving me any more information. Oh, I have a spammer. Welcome to my life. What is this person's name? Sorry for the spam, guys. One sec. Tech World at Twitter, go away. Why is it not showing up? I don't see that person's email address in here for some reason. People are losers. All right, sorry about that. Sorry for the distraction. So, yeah, grain salads make me happy. Fruits make me happy. Not like a big leafy salad, that's weird. By the way, Feverish Scarlet, thanks for the heads up. I don't know. I think that person like disappeared as soon as you brought it up. Because I'm like looking at the participants and they're not appearing in here. So hopefully they're gone. I haven't needed a moderator yet. So let's see, we have more questions. And we're running out of time. I like this question. So 15 grams of sugar is dessert. What's a good amount overall? E.g. granola bar with 7 grams, okay, what's too much per serving? Okay, so this is an interesting question. It's something that I've been sort of thinking about lately. So I'm starting to become of the opinion that even the sugar, so I think about food labels a lot. And I'm starting to become of the opinion that even the amount of sugar that's listed on there is like not hugely important so much as the ingredients. Like, yeah, I mean, it can be a red light. Like, oh shoot, there's like 17 grams of sugar in here. What's in it? But then you're like, oh, it's milk. They're counting lactose. It doesn't even really count. So, you have to. It depends on what you want. For me, if it has fruit in it, if like that's where the sugar's coming from, then I don't count it as like something I shouldn't eat any more of that day. I don't limit my fruit consumption. But I do limit my added sugar consumption, and I try not to eat it more than once a week. Anything with it. So I try to make those things really good. So I try to make it a real dessert as opposed to something like a granola bar. For like, I know, you might be, I assume you're a normal, healthy male and are probably somewhat active. If you're just like a normal, healthy person, a granola bar with added sugar here and there isn't going to kill you. If you're trying to lose weight, that's definitely a place you should look to cut it out. You know what I mean? Like, that's definitely going to be something that's going to make your life more difficult as opposed to less difficult. So I don't, we talked a few weeks or like a month or so ago about sugar maybe being a poison. In the amounts that you're talking about when you're aware you're eating it. So for most people, the biggest issue is that they're not even aware that they're eating barbecue sauce with like honey in it, or cereal that's got like all this sugar in it, or all this other just garbage that is branded as even healthy. Like I can't even tell you how many things I see that are totally branded as healthy, that when you look at the ingredients, the first ingredient is brown rice syrup, and it's like, those are always like, if it's brown rice syrup, oh, it's like not pure sugar. So that's the problem. If you are aware that there's sugar in what you're eating, you're like, that's like half the battle, or more than half the battle probably. Just, keep in mind that it's something that you can cut out if you want to lose weight. And keep in mind that it's generally not the healthiest thing to eat, but, sometimes stuff tastes good. Like, I normally eat muesli every morning, and there's either a brand I buy or I make my own. But this week, like, I just didn't have time to make it to the store to get those things. And so I had to get some granola from my local butcher. It's like the only thing even close to breakfast food in my neighborhood. And it has a little bit of sugar in it, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to kill me this one week. So that's sort of how I approach this stuff. I don't beat myself up over it. I try to make it that if I have like one really good dessert a week, like something like no doubt this is dessert. And I enjoy it. I enjoy every bite of it. I don't stuff myself on it. I just, I share it with my boyfriend or whatever, and it's like our treat for the week, and it's awesome, and I'm glad I do that. But, I hope you see what I'm getting at here. I try not to stress out about stuff like that. For most people, the biggest issue is knowing that they're even eating sugar at all. And most people are eating it every single meal in massive quantities, and they don't even realize it. And then they go have dessert because they think they were good and ate at Subway or whatever. So that's a much bigger issue. I'm going camping next week. Any healthy meal ideas that don't involve refrigeration? I always like to take oatmeal and peanut butter and crackers. And even, most vegetables that, a lot of vegetables anyway, don't require like refrigeration for like a couple days. So you can bring stuff even for a stir fry. It's hard. I think you could even probably bring some eggs if you cook them within the first like 24 hours or so. And nuts are always good. Kale chips, if you can make some in advance, it's always good. Or buy some. Bread, cheese will last a little while. Try to get through these last couple questions. This is interesting. So I've mentioned a dislike for Weight Watchers. What are your thoughts on their new program? I don't know it that well, but I think it's the one where they stopped limiting vegetables and fruit. Is that one? I mean, it's pretty good. If you it's one of those things where you can be on Weight Watchers and totally cheat, or totally not eat healthy. Put it that way. You can just buy all their food that they sell, and you can be on Weight Watchers and eat healthy, like vegetables and fruit and stuff. And if it helps you keep tabs on yourself, if it helps you to count all that stuff, there's something to say about that. There's something to say about counting stuff, especially if you have spent your whole life not thinking about what you eat. And suddenly you look down and you're like 30, 40 pounds overweight, and you're like, how do I change? I mean, I'm the type of person, I was dieting my whole life. So for me, a big important step was to stop doing that. Stop counting every calorie I eat, and stop counting carbs and trying to get the perfect solution to make me my perfect self that I always wanted to be. But I have had tons of practice doing that. If you haven't had any practice, I could see a value in Weight Watchers style thing where you have to count points and stuff like that. So, I'm not totally against it. I don't think it's necessary. I definitely think people can do this on their own without it. But I don't think it's like evil. I mean, there are plenty of evil diet companies, and I don't think they're one of them. They're going to sell their own products, whatever. It's like, that's annoying to me, but I don't expect perfection out of a brand like Weight Watchers, so it's not that bad. And like, this is one of the hardest things for me because, I try to monetize what I'm doing, but it's like, what am I going to ever sell? Like, that's why I'm building a farmer's market bag, like, because it's like the few things that like won't kill you. So, cheers to Weight Watchers and their program. Thank you, Steve. You're nice for saying that. There's a really funny question on here coming up. But first, on to stevia. So I don't really have thoughts on stevia in particular. I've been meaning to research it more because I heard, I was surprised to see in Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Body, that he said it was like maybe healthy. I don't know if that's true or not. I personally had a company sent me some. I won't say what company. They sent me some samples. It was very nice of them to do. And a bunch of different ones. I used it once and it tasted disgusting. I mean, maybe I used it 2 or 3 times. And then I gave it to a friend and she wanted to bake with it and she used it and she thought it tasted disgusting too. So it's like, I don't know. I think for me, the biggest issue with sugar substitutes, and we can do a whole show on this if you guys want. The issue with sugar substitutes is that they haven't been shown to be beneficial. So people who use them don't lose weight. And they don't do what most people need, which is train them to stop liking such sweet food. Because your body still gets acclimated to these things. I mean, a lot of people think it's super, super toxic. The data for that is not convincing. I don't know that they're directly toxic, but they definitely don't help, and they probably, if anything, they do a little bit of harm by not getting you in the right mentality. So I would avoid sugar substitutes. That's my 2 cents. Yeah, whoever just said that you like Tim Ferriss, but he says not to eat fruit in the 4-Hour Body. Yeah, I mean, that so my very first show, we talked about the 4-Hour Body, and my take on it was like, you have to remember, like, he's not saying that this is a diet for health. This is a diet. Oh, hold on 1 sec. Sorry, my recording quit there for some reason. Anyway, Tim is very clear in his book. Like, this is not a diet for health. This is a diet for rapid body change. And in the case of the diet, it's rapid fat loss. So, yeah, you'll lose weight faster if you're not eating fruit. You can eat it on cheat days, though. Whee! So, yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't fault him for that. I mean, he's very upfront about what the goals are in the 4-Hour Body. It's what it is the exact opposite philosophy of me, right? So my goals for you, for my readers, is to live the most wonderful life you can, be healthy, be as healthy as you want, be as thin as you want, and eat good food that tastes good, and enjoy it more, and spend time with your family, and not be obsessed about this stuff. It's the opposite of him. He's like, how am I going to lose 20 pounds of fat and gain 30 pounds of muscle in 5 days? It's like, personally, that's not interesting to me. If it were, I'd probably listen to him because I know he tests this stuff really carefully. So that's my point with Tim. So, okay, it looks like it's past 1 already. You guys are so fun. I wish I had a squirrel recipe for you, but I recommend you go read Hank Shaw's blog. He probably has one. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was really fun, and I will be back. I don't know when the next show is, and I don't know what the next topic is, but it's going to be great, whatever it is. Probably next week or maybe the week after. And then I hold these open office hours every couple weeks just so that you guys can know what I do. So the normal show is only actually available to subscribers to watch the live show, and that's to subscribers to my... Oh, and I just realized my tomato background is gone. So the URL to sign up for the for the newsletter, which gives you personal email access to me. So it's basically a premium newsletter that you can ask me any questions you want, and I will like take the time out of my day and answer you personally. You can ping me with any random health question you have. The other thing that it gives you, the other thing it gives you is I periodically, like once a week or so, send out bonus nutrition tips and thoughts and in short little emails about once a week, the stuff that's not on Summer Tomato. And lastly, it gets you access to these live shows. And so we have a great little community, and it's really fun. So if you want to sign up, you can go to tinyletter.com/summertomato, or you can go to the Summer Tomato website, and there's a little tab that says live, and it'll explain all about the show, all about the newsletter Tomato Slice, and you can read about it there.